Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Introduction to Paralegalism, Perspectives, Problems, and Skills, 9th edition. Appendix A, Paralegal, Bar, and Related Associations. Appendix Introduction. A. Paralegal and Related Associations, State and Local. B. Paralegal Associations, National. C. Paralegal Associations, International. D. More Related Associations. E. Bar Associations, Traditional. F. Bar and Related Associations, Specialty. Appendix Introduction. A. Paralegal and Related Associations, State and Local. B. Paralegal Associations, National. C. Paralegal Associations, International. D. More Related Associations. E. Bar Associations, Traditional. F. Bar and Related Associations, Specialty. A. Paralegal and Related Associations, State and Local. Perform these searches in Google, Bing, or Yahoo, substituting your state, county, or city for AA. Paralegal Associations, AA. Legal Assistant Association, AA. Legal Professional Association, AA. Association of Legal Administrators, AA. Legal Secretary Association, AA. American Association of Legal Nurse Consultants, AA. List of Paralegal Associations. www.paralegals.com. www.nala.org. www.nals.org. Criminal Justice Degrees Schools.com. See Careers. Paralegal Associations on LinkedIn. LinkedIn.com. Enter Paralegal Association in the search box. blog.linkedin.com. Paralegal Associations on Facebook. Facebook.com. Enter Paralegal Association in the search box. Paralegal Associations on X. Once you have the name of an association, type it in the X search boxes. Twitter. Enter Paralegal Association in the search box. Paralegal Associations on Google+, plus.google.com. Enter Paralegal Association in the search box. B. Paralegal Associations, National Association of Legal Assistants, NALA, www.nala.org, National Federation of Paralegal Associations, NFPA, paralegals.org, National Association for Legal Support Professionals, NALS, NALS.org, American Alliance of Paralegals, AAPI, AAPI-PARA.org, International Practice Management Association, IPMA, the EIPMA.org, C. Paralegal Associations International, Alberta Association of Professional Paralegals, Canada, alberta-paralegal.com, BC Paralegal Association, British Columbia, BC Paralegal Association.com, Canadian Association of Paralegals, caplegal.ca, Institute of Law Clerks of Ontario, Canada, Institute of Law Clerks of Ontario, Canada, ilco.on.ca, Chartered Institute of Legal Executives, England, cilex.org.uk, Institute of Legal Executives, Australia, liv.asn.au/ International Association of Administrative Professionals, IAAP-HQ.org, Irish Institute of Legal Executives, Ireland, IILEX.EE, IILEX.IE, Legal Secretaries International, legalsecretaries.org, New Zealand Institute of Legal Executives, nzile.org.nz, Paralegal Society of Ontario, Canada, paralegalsociety.on.ca, Scottish Paralegal Association, Scotland, scottish-paralegal.org.uk. D. More related associations. ABA Standing Committee on Paralegals, americanbar.org/groups/paralegals.html, American Association for Justice, affiliate membership for paralegals, justice.org, enter paralegal after clicking search, American Association for Paralegal Education, aafpe.org, American Association of Law Librarians, aallnet.org, American Health Lawyers Association, healthlawyers.org, American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, AICPA.org, American Pro Se Association, legalhelp.org, Association of Bankruptcy Judicial Assistants, abja.org, Association of Certified E-Discovery Specialists, aceds.org, Association of Legal Administrators, alanet.org, Court-Appointed Special Advocates, CASA for Children.org, CASA4children.org, Foundation for the Advancement of the Paralegal Profession, paralegalfoundation.org, International Process Servers Association, iProcessServers.org, iProcessServers.com, National Association of Freelance Legal Professionals, freelancelegalprofessionals.blogspot.com, National Association for Law Placement, NALP.org, National Association of Document Examiners, documentexaminers.org, National Association of Enrolled Agents, NAEA.org, National Association of Legal Investigators, NALIonline.org, National Association of Patent Practitioners, NAPP.org, National Association of Professional Process Servers, NAPPS.org, National Association of Tax Professionals, NATPTAX.com, National Conference of Bar Examiners, NCBEX.org, National Court Reporters Association, NCRA.org, National Notary Association, nationalnotary.org, National Organization of Legal Services Workers, NOLSW.org, National Organization of Social Security Claimants Representatives, NOSSCR.org, National Paralegal Association, nationalparalegal.org. E. Bar Associations Traditional. Search in Google, Bing, or Yahoo, substituting your state, county, or city for AA, Bar Association AA, Lawyer Association AA, Attorney Association AA, lists of state, county, and local bar associations in every state. www.washlaw.edu/bar, hg.org/bar-associations-usa.html, ilrg.com/non-profit.html, citylegalguide.com/bar.cfm, americanbar.org/groups/bar_services/state_bar_associations.html. F. Bar and related associations specialty. Lists of specialty bar associations. allaw.com/legal_organizations. ilrg.com/non-profit.html. Individual sites. Academy of Legal Studies in Business, ALSB.org, American Academy of Estate Planning Attorneys, AAEPA.com, American Academy of Forensic Sciences, AAFS.org, American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers, AAML.org, American Agricultural Law Association, AGLaw-ASSN.org, American Arbitration Association, ADR.org, American Association for Justice, formerly Association of Trial Lawyers of America, justice.org, American Association of Attorney Certified Public Accountants, attorney-cpa.com, American Association of Law Libraries, AALLNET.org, American Association of Nurse Attorneys, TAANA.org, American Bar Association, americanbar.org/aba.html, American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU.org, American College of Family Trial Lawyers, ACFTL.com, American College of Real Estate Lawyers, ACREL.org, American College of Trust and Estate Counsel, ACTEC.org, American Constitution Society, ACSLAW.org, American Health Lawyers Association, healthlawyers.org, American Immigration Lawyers Association, AILA.org, American Inns of Court, insofcourt.org, American Intellectual Property Law Association, AIPLA.org, American Law Institute, ALI.org, American Masters of Law Association, AMOLA.org, American Pro Se Association, legalhelp.org, American Society for Pharmacy Law, ASPL.org, American Society of International Law, ASIL.org, American Society of Law, Medicine Ethics, ASLME.org, Animal Legal Defense Fund, ALDF.org, Association for Conflict Resolution, ACRNET.org, Association for Continuing Legal Education, CLE, ACLEA.org, Association of Attorney Mediators, attorney-mediators.org, Association of Corporate Counsel, ACC.com, Association of Family and Conciliation Courts, AFCCNET.org, Black Entertainment and Sports Lawyers Association, BESLA.org, Canadian Bar Association, CBA.org, Center for American and International Law, Center for American and International Law, CAILAW.org, Center for Law and Social Policy, CLASP.org, Christian Legal Society, CLSNET.org, Criminal Justice Legal Foundation, CJLF.org, Customs and International Trade Bar Association, CITBA.org, Decalogue Society of Lawyers, Bar Association for Jewish Attorneys, Decalogue Society.org, Defense Research Institute, DRI.org, Dominican Bar Association, DominicanBarAssociation.org, Education Law Association, educationlaw.org, Environmental Law Institute, www.2.eli.org, Federal Bar Association, FEDBAR.org, Federal Circuit Bar Association, FEDCIRBAR.org, Federal Communications Bar Association, FCBA.org, Federal Magistrate Judges Association, FEDJudge.org, Federation of Insurance Corporate Council, thefederation.org, Hellenic Bar Association, HellenicBarAssociation.com, Hispanic National Bar Association, HNBA.com, Human Rights First, humanrightsfirst.org, International Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers, IAML-USA.com, International Air Transportation Safety Bar Association, IATSBA.org, International Center for Not-for-Profit Law, ICNL.org, International Law Association, ILAHQ.org, International Masters of Gaming Law, GamingLawMasters.com, International Technology Law Association, itechlaw.org, Internet Attorneys Association, internetattorneysassociation.org, Inter-Pacific Bar Association, IPBA.org, Italian American Lawyers Association, IALA.info, Judge Advocates Association, Military and Veterans Law, JAA.org, Justinian Society, Italian American Attorneys, Justinian.org, Lambda Legal Defense and Education Fund, Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, and Transgender Issues, lambdalegal.org, Lawyer Pilots Bar Association, LPBA.org, Lawyers Without Borders, lawyerswithoutborders.org, Multi-Law Global Law Network, multilaw.com, NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund, NAACP-LDF.org, National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys, NAELA.org, National American Indian Court Judges Association, NAICJA.org, National Asian Pacific American Bar Association, NAPABA.org, National Association for Law Placement, NALP.org, National Association for Rights Protection and Advocacy, NARPA.org, National Association of Assistant United States Attorneys, NAAUSA.org, National Association of Attorneys General, NAAG.org, National Association of Bond Lawyers, NABL.org, National Association of College and University Attorneys, NACUA.org, National Association of Consumer Bankruptcy Attorneys, NACBA.com, National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, criminaljustice.org, National Association of Legal Search Consultants, NALSC.org, National Association of Patent Practitioners, NAPP.org, National Association of Retail Collection Attorneys, NARCA.org, National Association of Secretaries of State, NASS.org, National Association of Women Judges, NAWJ.org, National Association of Women Lawyers, NAWL.org, National Bar Association, African American Attorneys, nationalbar.org, National Board of Trial Advocacy, NBTAnet.org, National Center for Lesbian Rights, NCLRights.org, National Center for Poverty Law, Sergeant Shriver, povertylaw.org, National Center for State Courts, NCSC.org, National Crime Victim Bar Association, victimbar.org, National District Attorneys Association, NDAA.org, National Employment Lawyers Association, NELA.org, National Lawyers Association, NLA.org, National Lawyers Guild, Civil Rights Group of Lawyers, Jailhouse Lawyers and Legal Workers. National Lawyers Guild, Civil Rights Group of Lawyers, Jailhouse Lawyers and Legal Workers, NLG.org, National Legal Aid and Defender Association, www.nlada.org, National Legal Center for the Public Interest, nlcpi.org, National LGBT Bar Association, lgbtbar.org, National Native American Bar Association, nativeamericanbar.org, National Organization of Bar Council, NOBC.org, National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation, NRTW.org, National Whistleblower Center, whistleblowers.org, Network of Trial Law Firms, trial.com, Philippine American Bar Association, philconnect.com/PABA, Rocky Mountain Mineral Law Foundation, rmmlf.org, Rutherford Institute, Civil and Human Rights, rutherford.org, Society of Corporate Secretaries and Governance Professionals, governanceprofessionals.org, Sport and Recreation Law Association, SR Sport and Recreation Law Association, SRLAW, srlawwebsite.com, Sports Lawyers Association, sportslaw.org, Ukrainian American Bar Association, UABA.org, Appendix B, Federal Government Organization Chart. The government of the United States, the Constitution, legislative branch, executive branch, judicial branch, legislative branch, the Congress, Senate, House, architect of the Capitol, United States Botanic Garden, Government Accountability Office, Government Printing Office, Library of Congress, Congressional Budget Office, Executive Branch, the President, the Vice President, Executive Office of the President, White House Officer, White House Office, Office of the Vice President, Council of Economic Advisors, Council on Environmental Quality, National Security Council, Office of Administration, Office of Management and Budget, Office of National Drug Control Policy, Office of Policy Development, Office of the United States, Trade Representative, Judicial Branch, the Supreme Court of the United States Courts of Appeals, United States District Courts, Territorial Courts, United States Court of International Trade, United States Court of Federal Claims, United States Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces, United States Tax Court, United States Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, Administrative Office of the United States Courts, Federal Judicial Center, United States Sentencing Commission. And then from the executive branch, it goes to Department of Education, and then that branches off to Department of Agriculture, Department of Commerce, Department of Defense, Department of Education, Department of Energy, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Housing and Urban Development, and then from the Department of Education, it branches off to Department of State, and that branches off to Department of Interior, Department of the Interior, Department of Justice, Department of Labor, Department of State, Department of Transportation, Department of the Treasury, Department of Veterans Affairs. Independent establishments and government corporations. So from the Department of State, it branches off to independent establishments and government corporations. African Development Foundation, Broadcasting Board of Governors, Central Intelligence Agency, Commodity Futures Trading Commission, Consumer Product Safety Commission, Corporation for National and Community Service, Defense Nuclear Facilities Safety Board, Environmental Protection Agency, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, Export-Import Bank of the United States, Farm Credit Administration, Federal Communications Commission, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, Federal Election Commission, Federal Housing Finance Board, Federal Labor Relations Authority, Federal Maritime Commission, Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, Federal Mine Safety and Health Review Commission, Federal Reserve System, Federal Retirement Investment Board, Federal Trade Commission, General Services Administration, Inter-American Foundation, Merit Systems Protection Board, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, National Archives and Records Administration, National Capital Planning Commission, National Credit Union Administration, National Foundation on the Arts and the Humanities, National Labor Relations Board, National Mediation Board, National Railroad Passenger Corporation, Amtrak, National Science Foundation, National Transportation Safety Board, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, Occupational Safety and Health Review Commission, Office of Government Ethics, Office of the Director of National Intelligence, Office of Personnel Management, Office of Special Counsel, Overseas Private Investment Corporation, Peace Corps, Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation, Postal Regulatory Commission, National Railroad Retirement Board, Securities and Exchange Commission, Selective Service System, Small Business Administration, Social Security Administration, Tennessee Valley Authority, Trade and Development Agency, United States Agency for International Development, United States Commission on Civil Rights, United States International Trade Commission, United States Postal Service. Appendix C, State Survey, Opinions, Rules, Statutes, and Reports on Paralegal Ethics and Related Topics. Appendix Introduction. The primary coverage of the practice of law and ethics in every state is found in chapters 4 and 6. Here we highlight specific provisions in individual states. Many court opinions are cited. To read the full text of an opinion, go to scholar.google.com, select case law, and enter the name of the case if needed. Try entering the rest of the citation. In a general search engine, like for example, Google, Bing, or Yahoo, enter the citation. Do the same for WL citations. WL refers to Westlaw. If you do not have access to this research service, enter the citation in scholar.google.com and also try the citation in a general search engine. Alabama, Ethics Code and Opinions in Alabama. Attorneys, Alabama Code, Rules of Professional Conduct, judicial.alabama.gov, www.alabar.org, law.cornell.edu. Attorneys, Alabama Ethics Opinions, alabar.org/OGC/FOP list.CFM. Unauthorized Practice of Law in Alabama, alabar.org. Enter unauthorized practice of law in the search box. Judicial.alabama.gov. Statute 34-3-1. Michi's Alabama Code. Michi's Alabama Code. alabar.org. Paralegals and other non-attorneys, Alabama, alabar.org/OGC/FOP list.CFM. Enter paralegal in the search box. Rule 5.3 for a discussion of the state's ethics. Rule 5.3 Responsibilities regarding non-lawyer assistants. In the Alabama Rule of Professional Conduct, see Chapter 6. For the text of 5.3 in Alabama, see judicialalabama.gov /library/rules_condu. judicial.alabama.gov/library/rules_bar_conduct.cfm. DR 4-101. Prior to Rule 5.3, Alabama provided in DR 4-101D that a lawyer shall exercise reasonable care to prevent his employees, associates, and others whose services are utilized by him from disclosing or using confidences or secrets of a client. DR 7-107I provided that a lawyer shall exercise reasonable care to prevent his employees and associates from making an extrajudicial statement that he would be prohibited from making under DR 7-107. Rule 7.6. Under Rule 7.6 of the Rules of Professional Conduct, the title Legal Assistant is acceptable on a business card that also contains an attorney's or a law firm's name. The title of the non-attorney employee should be legibly and prominently displayed in close proximity to the employee's name. A casual observer of the card should not be misled into thinking that it is the card of an attorney. An earlier ethics opinion preferred the title non-lawyer assistant on the theory that paralegal could be a misleading title. Alabama State Bar, Opinion 86-04, March 17, 1986. See also Opinion 86-120, 12 December 2nd, 1886. When a paralegal signs a letter to a non-attorney, the paralegal's name should be followed by one of these titles: non-lawyer assistant, non-lawyer paralegal, or non-lawyer investigator. Alabama State Bar, Opinion 87-77, June 16th, 1987. It is improper to include the name of a non-attorney assistant on the letterhead of law firm stationery. Alabama State Bar, Opinion 83-87, May 23rd, 1983. The business card of a legal secretary can list the fact that she has been certified by passing an examination of the National Association of Legal Secretaries, now called NALS, the Association of Legal Professionals. Alabama State Bar, Opinion 90-01, January 17th, 1990. A non-lawyer employee who changes law firms must be held to the same standards as a lawyer in determining whether a conflict of interest exists. A firm that hires a non-lawyer employee previously employed by opposing counsel in pending litigation would have a conflict of interest, and must therefore be disqualified if, during the course of the previous employment, the employee acquired confidential information concerning the case. A firm may avoid disqualification if 1. The non-lawyer employee has not acquired material and confidential information regarding the litigation, or 2. If the client of the former firm waives disqualification and approves the use of a screening device or ethical wall. Alabama State Bar, Opinion 2022-01. An attorney cannot allow the paralegal to ask questions of debtors at meetings of creditors in bankruptcy cases. Alabama State Bar, Opinion 89-76, September 20th, 1990. Paralegals may draft documents if supervised by an attorney, but they cannot make court appearances or give legal advice. Alabama State Bar, Opinion 86-120, December 2nd, 1986. An attorney engaged in collection work may not pay lay employees on a commission basis. Opinions of the General Counsel, February 3rd, 1988, revised February 14th, 1990. Non-attorney independent contractors who sell legal research services to attorneys are not engaged in the unauthorized practice of law. Alabama State Bar, Opinion 1990. Alabama State Bar, Opinion 90-04, January 18th, 1990. A law firm may not employ, retain, contract with, or hire a disbarred lawyer to provide legal services. This specifically includes paralegal services. A suspended lawyer may seek permission from the disciplinary commission to seek employment in the legal profession. In the event that permission is granted, the lawyer shall not have any contact with clients. Alabama Rules of Disciplinary Procedure, Rule 26. See also Alabama State Bar, Opinion 1996-08. Members of the bar, paralegals, or other personal assistants to members of the bar, when accompanied by an attorney, are permitted to bring laptops and personal digital assistants into the courthouse after such devices have been properly screened. Local Rules of the U.S. District Court, SD Alabama, Order 31. Appendix D, Ethical Codes of NALA, NFPA, and NALS. Appendix Introduction. As indicated in Chapter 4, the major national paralegal associations have ethical codes. See Chapter 6. Here are excerpts from these codes. NALA Code of Ethics and Professional Responsibility, National Association of Legal Assistants, www.nala.org. Each NALA member agrees to follow the canons of the Each NALA member agrees to follow the canons of the NALA Code of Ethics and Professional Responsibility. Violations of the code may result in cancellation of membership. First adopted by the NALA membership in May of 1975. The Code of Ethics and Professional Responsibility is the foundation of ethical practices of paralegals in the legal community. A paralegal must adhere strictly to the accepted standards of legal ethics and to the general principles of proper conduct. The performance of the duties of the paralegal shall be governed by specific canons as defined herein, so that justice will be served and goals of the profession attained. The canons of ethics set forth hereafter are adopted by the National Association of Legal Assistants, INC, as a general guide intended to aid paralegals and attorneys. The enumeration of these rules does not mean there are not others of equal importance, although not specifically mentioned. Court rules, agency rules, and statutes must be taken into consideration when interpreting the canons. Definition: a legal assistant or paralegal is a person qualified by education, training, or work experience who is employed or retained by a lawyer, law office, corporation, governmental agency, or other entity who performs specifically delegated substantive legal work for which a lawyer is responsible. Adopted by the ABA in 1997 and by NALA in 2001. The ABA adopted a revised definition in 2020, removing the term legal assistant. NALA realizes that the terms legal assistant and paralegal are used in the United States. NALA recognizes and supports paralegals regardless of title. However, as an organization, we primarily use the term paralegal. Canon 1. A paralegal must not A. engage in, encourage, or contribute to any act which could engage in, encourage, or contribute to any act which could constitute the unauthorized practice of law, and B. establish attorney-client relationships, set fees, give legal opinions or advice, or represent a client before a court or agency unless so authorized by that court or agency, and C. engage in conduct or take any action which would assist or involve the attorney in a violation of professional ethics or give the appearance of professional impropriety. Canon 2. A paralegal must not perform any of the duties that attorneys only may perform, nor take any actions that attorneys may not take. Canon 3. A paralegal may perform any task which is properly delegated and supervised by an attorney, as long as the attorney is ultimately responsible to the client, maintains a direct relationship with the client, and assumes professional responsibility for the work product. Canon 4. A paralegal must use discretion and professional judgment commensurate with knowledge and experience, but must not render independent legal judgment in place of an attorney. The services of an attorney are essential in the public interest whenever such legal judgment is required. Canon 5. A paralegal must disclose his or her status as a paralegal at the outset of any professional relationship with a client, attorney, a court or administrative agency, or personnel thereof, or a member of the general public. A paralegal must act prudently in determining the extent to which a client may be assisted without the presence of an attorney. Canon 6. A paralegal must strive to maintain integrity and a high degree of competency through education and training with respect to professional responsibility, local rules and practice, and through continuing education in substantive areas of law to better assist the legal profession in fulfilling its duty to provide legal service. Canon 7. A paralegal must protect the confidences of a client and must not violate any rule or statute now in effect or hereafter enacted controlling the doctrine of privileged communications between a client and an attorney. Canon 8. A paralegal must disclose to his or her employer or prospective employer any pre-existing client or personal relationship that may conflict with the interests of the employer or prospective employer and or their clients. Canon 9. A paralegal must do all other things incidental, necessary, or expedient for the attainment of the ethics and responsibilities as defined by statute or rule of court. Canon 10. A paralegal's conduct is guided by bar associations, codes of professional responsibility, and rules of professional conduct. Copyright 1975, revised 1979, 1988, 1995, 2007, 2022, 2023, reprinted with permission of the National Association of Legal Assistants, www.nala.org, 1516 South Boston, Suite number 200, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 74119. NFPA Model Code of Ethics and Professional Responsibility, National Federation of Paralegal Associations, www.paralegals.org. 1.1, a paralegal shall achieve and maintain a high level of competence. EC 1.1a, a paralegal shall achieve competency through education, including continuing legal education, training, and work experience. EC 1.1b, a paralegal shall aspire to participate in a minimum of 12 hours of continuing legal education every 2 years, to include at least 2 hours of ethics education, with the option to use diversity, equity, and inclusion education as 1 ethics credit hour in order to remain current on developments in the law. EC 1.1c, a paralegal shall perform all assignments promptly and efficiently. EC 1.1d, a paralegal shall remain abreast of the latest technology, including legal applications, electronic communication, and device and data security, whether the paralegal is working in a traditional law office environment or remotely. EC 1.1e, a paralegal shall be culturally competent and understand implicit and explicit biases that could impact their work with diverse populations. 1.2, a paralegal shall maintain a high level of personal and professional integrity. EC 1.2a, a paralegal shall not engage in any ex parte communications involving the courts or any other adjudicatory body in an attempt to exert undue influence or to obtain advantage or the benefit of only one party. EC 1.2b, a paralegal shall not communicate or cause another to communicate with a party the paralegal knows to be represented by a lawyer in a pending matter without the prior consent of the lawyer representing such other party. EC 1.2c, a paralegal shall ensure that all timekeeping and billing records prepared by the paralegal are thorough, accurate, honest, and complete. EC 1.2d, a paralegal shall not knowingly engage in fraudulent billing practices. Such practices may include, but are not limited to, inflation of hours billed to a client or employer, misrepresentation of the nature of tasks performed, and or submission of fraudulent expense and disbursement documentation. EC 1.2e, a paralegal shall be scrupulous, thorough, and honest in the identification and maintenance of all funds, securities, and other assets of a client, and shall provide accurate accounting as appropriate. EC 1.2f, a paralegal may not split or share legal fees with a lawyer or law practice, nor receive payment for the referral of legal business. A paralegal may be compensated based on quantity, quality, and value of the work provided. However, the paralegal's compensation may not be contingent by advance agreement upon the outcome of a particular case or class of classes. A paralegal may be compensated based on the quantity, quality, and value of the work provided. However, the paralegal's compensation may not be contingent by advance agreement upon the outcome of a particular case or class of cases. EC 1.2g, a paralegal may consult with the NFPA Ethics Board regarding non-confidential knowledge of any dishonest or fraudulent acts by any person pertaining to the handling of the funds, securities, or other assets of a client as defined by the Model Code of Ethics and or ethics rules and or the rule and or laws governing the jurisdiction in which the paralegal provides services. 1.3, a paralegal shall maintain a high standard of professional conduct. EC-1.3a, a paralegal shall refrain from engaging in any conduct that offends the dignity and decorum of proceedings before a court, tribunal, or other adjudicatory body, and shall be respectful of all rules and procedures, whether the paralegal is working in a traditional law office environment or working remotely. EC 1.3b, a paralegal shall avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety, and shall not engage in any conduct that would adversely affect his or her fitness to practice. Such conduct may include, but is not limited to, violence, dishonesty, unethical conduct, discriminatory practices, interference with the administration of justice, and or abuse of a professional position or public office. EC-1.3c, should a paralegal's fitness to practice be compromised by physical or mental illness, causing that paralegal to commit an act that is in direct violation of the code and rules and or the rules and or laws governing the jurisdiction in which the paralegal practices, that paralegal may be protected from sanction upon review of the nature and circumstances of that illness. EC-1.3d, a paralegal shall advise the proper authority of non-confidential information of any action of another legal professional that clearly demonstrates fraud, deceit, dishonesty, or misrepresentation. The authority to whom the report is made shall depend on the nature and circumstances of the possible misconduct, like, for example, supervising attorney, ethics counsel, or committees of law firms, corporations and or paralegal associations, local or state bar associations, local prosecutors, administrative agencies. Failure to report such knowledge is in itself misconduct and shall be treated as such under these rules. EC-1.3e, a paralegal may consult with the NFPA Ethics Board if asked or directed to assist any individual with the commission of an act that is in direct violation of the Code of Ethics and or ethical rules and or laws governing the A paralegal may consult with the NFPA Ethics Board if asked or directed to assist any individual with the commission of an act that is in direct violation of the Code of Ethics and or ethics. A paralegal may consult with the NFPA Ethics Board if asked or directed to assist any individual with the commission of an act that is in direct violation of the Code of Ethics and or ethical rules and or laws governing the jurisdiction in which the paralegal provides services. EC-1.3f, if a paralegal possesses knowledge or future criminal activity, that knowledge must be reported to the appropriate authority immediately. 1.4, a paralegal shall serve the public interest by contributing to the improvement of the legal system and delivery of quality legal services, including pro bono, publico services, and community service. EC-1.4a, a paralegal shall be sensitive to the legal needs of the public and shall promote the development and implementation of programs that address those needs. EC-1.4b, a paralegal shall support efforts to improve the legal system and access thereto and shall assist in making changes. EC-1.4c, a paralegal shall support and participate in the delivery of pro bono publico services directed toward implementing and A paralegal shall support and participate in the delivery of pro bono publico services directed toward implementing and improving access to justice the law, the legal system, or the paralegal and legal professions. EC-1.4D, a paralegal should aspire annually to contribute 50 hours of pro bono publico services and or community service as defined by this code on an annual basis. Pro bono publico and community service may be provided through charitable, religious, civic, community, governmental, and educational organizations. 1.5. A paralegal shall preserve all confidential information provided by the client or acquired from other sources before, during. A paralegal shall preserve all confidential information provided by the client or acquired from other sources before, during, and after the course of the professional relationship. EC-1.5A, a paralegal shall be aware and abide by all authority governing confidential information in all applicable jurisdictions. EC-1.5B, a paralegal shall not use confidential information to the disadvantage of the client. EC-1.5C, a paralegal shall not benefit from the use confidential information. A paralegal shall not benefit from the use confidential information or use confidential information. A paralegal shall not benefit from the use of confidential information or use confidential information to the advantage of a third party or entity. EC-1.5D, prior to the revelation of any confidential information, a paralegal should consult with and seek approval from their supervising attorney, if applicable. A paralegal may reveal confidential information only after full disclosure and with the client's written consent, or when required by law or court order, or when necessary to prevent the client from committing an act that could result in death or serious bodily harm. EC-1.5E, a paralegal shall keep those individuals responsible for the legal representation of a client fully informed of any confidential information the paralegal may have pertaining to that client. EC-1.5F, a paralegal may only reveal confidential information with the authorization of the supervising attorney. EC-1.5G, a paralegal who works remotely shall take precautions to prevent cybersecurity breaches and shall secure their physical workspace to prevent third-party access to confidential information. 1.6, a paralegal shall avoid conflicts of interests and shall disclose any possible conflict to the employer or clients, as well as to the prospective employers or clients. EC-1.6A, a paralegal shall act within the bounds of the law solely for the benefit of the client and shall be free of compromising influences and loyalties. Neither the paralegal's personal or business interests nor those of other clients or third persons should compromise the paralegal's professional judgment and loyalty to the client. EC-1.6B, a paralegal should immediately disclose any potential conflict of interest to their supervising attorney. EC-1.6C, a paralegal shall avoid conflicts of interest that may arise from previous assignments, projects, or employment, whether for a present or past employer or client. EC-1.6D, a paralegal shall avoid conflicts of interest that may arise from family relationships and from personal and business interests. EC-1.6E, in order to be able to determine whether an actual or potential conflict of interest exists, a paralegal shall create and maintain an effective database that identifies clients, matters, and parties with which the paralegal has worked, if permitted by the employer, attorney, client, or organization. EC-1.6F, a paralegal shall reveal sufficient non-confidential information about a client or former client to reasonably ascertain if an actual or potential conflict of interest exists. EC-1.6G, a paralegal shall not participate in or conduct work on any matter where a conflict of interest has been identified. EC-1.6H, in matters where a conflict of interest has been identified and the client has provided written consent to continued representation, a paralegal shall comply fully with the implementation and maintenance of an ethical wall. 1.7. A paralegal's title shall be fully disclosed. EC-1.7A. A paralegal's title shall clearly indicate the individual's status and shall be disclosed in all business and professional communications to avoid misunderstandings and misconceptions about the paralegal's role and responsibilities. EC-1.7B. A paralegal's title shall be included if the paralegal's name appears on business cards, letterhead, brochures, directories, and advertisements. EC-1.7C. A paralegal shall not use letterhead, business cards, or other promotional materials to create a fraudulent impression of the paralegal's status or ability to provide services in the jurisdiction in which the paralegal provides services. EC-1.7D. A paralegal shall not provide services under the pretense of any record, degree, diploma, or certificate that has been illegally or fraudulently obtained or issued, or which is misrepresentative in any way. EC-1.7E. A paralegal shall not participate in the creation, issuance, or dissemination of fraudulent records, degrees, diplomas, or certificates. 1.8. A paralegal shall not engage in the unauthorized practice of law. EC-1.8A. For purposes of this rule, the unauthorized practice of law shall be defined as giving legal advice, accepting cases, setting fees, planning strategy, making legal decisions, taking depositions, and appearing in court. EC-1.8B. A paralegal shall comply with the applicable legal authority governing the unauthorized practice of law in the jurisdiction in which the paralegal provides services. EC-1.8C. If the paralegal is legitimately participating in a program that allows for expanded scope and or limited direct provision of legal services, the paralegal shall follow all rules and regulations to remain in compliance with the program. Reprinted with permission of National Federation of Paralegal Associations. NALS Code of Ethics. NALS, the National Association for Legal Support Professionals. www.nals.org. Members of NALS are bound by the objectives of this association and the standards of conduct required of the legal profession. Every member shall encourage respect for the law and the administration of justice, observe rules governing privileged communications and confidential information, promote and exemplify high standards of loyalty, cooperation, and courtesy, perform all duties of the profession with integrity and competence, and pursue a high order of professional attainment. Integrity and high standards of conduct are fundamental to the success of our professional association. This code is promulgated by the NALS and accepted by its members to accomplish these ends. Canon 1. Member of this association shall maintain a high degree of competency and integrity through continuing education to better assist the legal profession in fulfilling its duty to provide legal quality services to the public. Canon 2. Members of this association shall maintain a high standard of ethical conduct and shall contribute to the integrity of the association and the legal profession. Canon 3. Members of this association shall avoid a conflict of interest pertaining to a client matter. Canon 4. Members of this association shall preserve and protect the confidences and privileged communications of a client. Canon 5. Members of this association shall exercise care in using independent professional judgment and in determining the extent to which a client may be assisted without the presence of a lawyer, and shall not act in matters involving professional legal judgment. Canon 6. Members of this association shall not solicit legal business on behalf of a lawyer. Canon 7. Members of this association, unless permitted by law, shall not perform paralegal functions except under the direct supervision of a lawyer, and shall not advertise or contract with members of the general public for the performance of paralegal functions. Canon 8. Members of this association, unless permitted by law, shall not perform any of the duties restricted to lawyers, or do things which lawyers themselves may not do, and shall assist in preventing the unauthorized practice of law. Canon 9. Members of this association not licensed to practice law shall not engage in the practice of law as defined by statutes or court decisions. Canon 10. Members of this association shall do all other things incidental, necessary, or expedient to enhance professional responsibility and participation in the administration of justice and public service in cooperation with the legal profession. Reprinted with permission of NALS, the National Association for Legal Support Professionals. Appendix E, Legal Specialties and Survey for Paralegals. For all of these specialties identified, you are given one or more websites where you will find more information about the kind of law involved in the specialty. Another way to find out what kind of law is practiced in a particular specialty is to go to the site of a major law firm and click the sections called Areas of Practice. What we do, services, or about the firm. In such sections, specialty areas of the law are listed and described. 1. Administrative law, government employment. Many paralegals work for specific administrative agencies. See also Appendix 1 for links to paralegal functions at state agencies in your state. Process and respond to questions and complaints from the public. Perform legal research, provide litigation assistance in agency hearings and court cases brought by or against the agency, represent the government at administrative hearings where authorized, manage the law office within the agency, train and supervise other non-attorney personnel, private law firm compliance work. See also corporate law and advertising law. Administrative law is a major focus of law firms with clients who must comply with local, state, and federal government requirements, particularly in regulated industries such as finance, health, environment, and worker safety. For example, the passage of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, SOX, in 2002 created many new regulations governing banking and finance. This resulted in a great deal of SOX compliance work for attorneys and their paralegals. Paralegals working for the law firms that do compliance work are sometimes called compliance paralegals. Gather and research information on legal and compliance issues, compile data to demonstrate compliance, maintain records, update log that tracks regulatory compliance filings, draft periodic reports to regulatory agencies documenting compliance, assist in preparing cases before administrative agencies or courts when the client is charged with non-compliance, monitor new government laws affecting compliance obligations of clients, monitor key dates and compliance obligations related to various contracts, provide coordination and follow-through for government contract solicitations, representation of citizens while working in non-government offices. Some administrative agencies authorize non-attorneys to represent citizens at hearings and other agency proceedings. For an example of a paralegal using this authorization while working in a private law office, see the summary of Formal Opinion 1988-103 in Appendix D for California, in which a paralegal represents clients at a workers' compensation hearing. See also immigration law, pro bono work, public sector, social security law, and welfare law. Interview client, conduct investigation, perform legal research, engage in informal advocacy at the agency, prepare client for the agency hearing and represent them at the hearing, draft documents for submission at hearing, monitor activities of the agency, like, for example, attend rulemaking hearings to take notes on matters relevant to particular clients, prepare witnesses, reports, and exhibits designed to influence the drafting of regulations at the agency. Job search in this area of the law. Perform the following searches: paralegal job, administrative law, paralegal job, compliance. To narrow these searches, add the name of your state or city to the search query. Perform the following searches: paralegal job, administrative law, paralegal job, compliance. To narrow these searches, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 2. Admiralty law. Admiralty law, also referred to as maritime law, covers accidents, injuries, and death connected with vessels on navigable waters. Special legislation exists in this area, such as the Jones Act. Investigation. Obtain the facts of the event involved. Arrange to board the vessel to photograph the scene of the accident. Collect facts relevant to the seaworthiness of the vessel. Take statements from witnesses. Legal research. Research liability under the applicable statutes. Research special procedures to obtain compensation. Subrogation, the substitution of one person for another on a debt or issue. Subrogation, the substitution of one person for another on a debt or insurance claim. Handle small cargo subrogation files. Prepare status reports for clients. Litigation, draft complaints and other pleadings. Respond to discovery requests. Monitor all maritime files needed to keep track of discovery deadlines. Coordinate projects by expert witnesses. Provide general trial assistance. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job, admiralty. Perform this search, paralegal job, admiralty. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 3. Advertising law. Compliance work. Advertising. Review advertising of company products to identify claims made in the advertising about the product. Collect the data needed to support the accuracy of advertising claims pursuant to regulations of the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, state laws, and company guidelines. Labels. Review labels of company products to ensure compliance with federal deception regulations of the FTC and other agencies. Monitor compliance with the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and company policy on product identity, weight statement, ingredient list, name and address of manufacturer and distributor, and nutrition information. Product promotions. Review promotions for company products, coupons, sweepstakes, bonus packs, etc., to ensure compliance with FTC guidelines, state laws, and company policy. Inquiries and complaints. Keep up to date on government regulations on advertising. Help company attorney respond to inquiries and complaints from the public, competitors, the FTC, the FDA, the state's attorney general, etc. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search. Paralegal job. Advertising law. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 4. Antitrust law. Investigation and analysis. Collect statistical and other technical data on a company or industry involved in litigation. Check Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC filings, annual reports, advertising brochures, etc. Obtain data from government bodies. Prepare reports on economic data. Find and interview potential witnesses. Administrative agency. Monitor the regulations and decisions of the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, and other agencies. Prepare drafts of answers to requests for information from the FTC and other agencies. Litigation. Assist in drafting pleadings. Request company witness files and other documents in preparation for depositions. Schedule depositions, draft interrogatories, prepare special exhibits, organize, index, and digest voluminous records, prepare trial notebook, attend trial and take notes on testimony of witnesses, cite check appellate briefs of attorneys. Provide general trial assistance. Comment on paralegal work in this area. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search. Paralegal job antitrust. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 5. Banking law. Paralegals employed by banks often work in the bank's trust department or its legal department. They work in the areas of real estate, bankruptcy, consumer affairs, and secretaries. They work in the areas of real estate, bankruptcy, consumer affairs, and securities law. In addition to banks, paralegals work for savings and loan institutions and other commercial lenders. Finally, some paralegals are employed in law firms that specialize in banking law. The following overview of duties is limited to the paralegal working for the legal department of the bank. The following overview of duties is limited to the paralegal working for the legal department of a bank. Claims. Assist legal staff in assessing bank liability for claims such as negligence and collection abuse. Compliance analysis help determine whether the bank is complying with the regulations and statutes that govern the banking industry. Monitoring, keep track of the rulemaking and other activities of the various bank regulatory agencies and the bill drafting activities of the legislative committees with jurisdiction over banks. Litigation, assist attorneys litigating claims. Miscellaneous, draft and or review loan applications and accompanying credit documents. Perform document analysis on financial statements, mortgages, assignments, and security agreements. Conduct UCC, Uniform Commercial Code searches. Assemble closing documents. Arrange for and attend loan closings. Notarize documents. Monitor recordation of documents. Act as liaison among the supervising attorney at the bank, the loan officer, and the customer. Act as liaison among the supervising attorney at the bank, the loan officer, and the customer. Perform routine legal research and analysis for the compliance department. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job banking trust department. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 6. Bankruptcy law. Paralegals in this area of law may be employed by a law firm that represents the debtor, like for example an individual, a business, a creditor, like for example a mortgagee, or the trustee in bankruptcy. A trustee in bankruptcy does not have to be an attorney. Some paralegals with bankruptcy experience have become trustees. A few paralegals work directly for a bankruptcy judge as a clerk or deputy. A few paralegals work directly for a bankruptcy judge as a clerk or deputy in bankruptcy court. Someone who provides bankruptcy assistance as an independent contractor rather than as an employee of an attorney is called a bankruptcy petition preparer, BPP, a position we will examine in Chapter 4. The following overview assumes that the paralegal works for a firm that represents the debtor. Interviewing and data collection. Help client fill out an extensive bankruptcy questionnaire on assets and liabilities. If needed, visit client's place of business to determine the kinds of records kept there. Help client assemble documents, loan agreements, deeds of trust, security agreements, creditor lists, payables lists, employment contracts, financial statements, leases, etc. Investigation, confirm amounts of indebtedness, identify secured and unsecured claims of creditors, check UCC Uniform Commercial Code, filings at the Secretary of State's office and at the county clerk's office. Check real property records in the clerk's office in the county where the property is located. Verify taxes owed. Identify tax liens. Identify exempt property. Asset control. Open bankruptcy file. Prepare inventories of assets and liabilities. Arrange for valuation of assets. Creditor contact. Answer inquiries of creditors on the status of the case. Request documentation from creditors on claims. Drafting. Draft original bankruptcy petition, schedule of liabilities, statement of affairs, status reports, final account, etc. Coordination. Serve as liaison with trustee in bankruptcy. Coordinate meeting of creditors. Prepare calendar of filing and other deadlines. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search. Paralegal job bankruptcy. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 7. Blockchain and cryptocurrency law. Blockchain and cryptocurrency law are an emerging specialty that has courted much attention. Cryptocurrency is a virtual currency that recently became legal in the United States. Think Bitcoin. Tax and securities law may be applicable, but are not reliant on banks and other similar institutions to regulate it and distribute its currency. One of the issues that arise in this area of the law is that it could skirt fraud and consumer protection laws, so this area is multidisciplinary, whereas blockchain is a term used for the technology that cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin use to secure and record their transactions. The two concepts go hand in hand. Job search. In this area of the law, perform a search on Google, Bing, or Yahoo. Cryptocurrency legal jobs. To narrow your search, add in the name of your state or city to your search query. More on this area of the law. www.ncsl.org. This site keeps track of legislation passed by states on the subject. blomberlaw.com provides general information about the area of law. IMF.org, the International Monetary Fund, monitors what is occurring internationally related to cryptocurrencies. 8. Cannabis law is a growing area as more and more states legalize marijuana. It is a nuanced area of the law and highly regulated. With states such as Colorado and California leading the way, the industry is a growing one, especially in the areas of business, startup and licensing, regulation and enforcement. This area also involves healthcare considerations such as medicinal marijuana and its use. Job search. In this area of the law, perform a search on Google, Bing, or Yahoo. Cannabis legal jobs. To narrow your search, add in the name of your state or city to your search query. More on this area of the law. www.americanbar.org. ABA. The ABA has a cannabis law and policy committee that brings together experts in the area and provide programming and informative publications on the subject. www.findlaw.com. www.ncsl.org. Provides information on the states and territories that have enacted cannabis laws on medicinal use. Perform a search. What do lawyers specializing in cannabis law and regulation do? 9. Cybersecurity and privacy law. One of the highest demand areas of the law is cybersecurity law, which also encompasses privacy law as well. Laws are constantly developing in this area as technology grows at breakneck speed. Working in this area requires an understanding of not only federal laws, but also state laws on the issue. Global appreciation of other countries' policies and laws are also critical to this area of practice. Cybersecurity and privacy laws intersect with banking and healthcare laws as well. It is a vast new area where specialization will bring a paralegal to the forefront of a burgeoning area of the law. Job search in this area of the law. Perform a search on Google, Bing, or Yahoo. Cybersecurity legal jobs. To narrow your search, add in the name of your state or city to your search query. More on this area of the law. www.law.gwu.edu. George Washington Law started a cybersecurity law initiative in 2017 and provides cutting-edge information on this area of the law. www.americanbar.org has articles on the subject. Search state and local bar associations for up-to-date information on cybersecurity issues. 7. Civil rights law. Government paralegal. Help government attorneys litigate discrimination complaints brought by citizens against the government, against other citizens, or against companies. Help identify and resolve discrimination complaints made by government employees against the government. The complaint may be based on sex, race, age, disability, etc. Representation of citizens while working in non-government offices. Assist law firms representing citizens in their discrimination complaints filed against the government, other citizens, or companies. In court, in special agencies created to hear discrimination cases such as the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, or the Human Rights Commission. Example, job duties of paralegal at the National Security Project of the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU. Respond to individuals who contact the National Security Project for legal assistance. Utilize and maintain the intake database to respond to requests and provide support to the project's attorney with client and witness interviews as needed. Conduct internet and other factual research and collaborate with attorneys in preparing background memoranda on selected policy issues. Cite, check, edit, format, and serve litigation documents, including briefs, memoranda, and correspondence. Draft affidavits, Freedom of Information Act requests, reports, and other legal or public education documents. Review and organize documents related to Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, requests and discovery. Maintain and ensure the accuracy of the project's litigation docket and calendar. Assist in updating the ACLU website. Oversee the training and work of the project's legal administrative assistants. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job, civil rights. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 8. Collections law. Acceptance of claims, open file, prepare index of parties, prepare inventory of debts of debtor. Investigation. Conduct asset check, verify address, verify filings at Secretary of State's office and County Clerk's office, like for example, UCC filings. Contact Credit Bureau, verify information in probate court, Registry of Deeds, etc. Pursue informal collection efforts in compliance with the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Litigation assistant, civil court, small claims court, etc. Draft pleadings, arrange for witnesses, file documents in court, assist in settlement and negotiation of claim. Assist in enforcement work such as wage attachment, prejudgment attachment, supplementary process, execution, and seizure. Assist in enforcement work such as wage attachment, prejudgment attachment, supplementary process, execution, and seizure of personal property. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job collections. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 9. Communications law, government paralegal. Assist attorneys at the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, in regulating the communications industry, like for example, help with rulemaking, license applications, and hearings. representation of citizens or companies while working in non-government offices, draft application for license, compliance reports, exemption applications, statistical analysis, etc., monitor activities of the FCC, assist in litigation within the FCC and in court, job search in this area of the law, perform this search, paralegal job, communications law. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 10. Construction law, claims assistance, work with engineering consultants in the preparation of claims. Data collection, daily manpower hours, amount of materials used, like for example concrete poured, timeline of change orders, PSI, pounds per square inch, tests, PSI, pounds per square inch, testing of concrete, document preparation, prepare graphs, special studies, like for example compare planned with actual progress on construction project, documents for negotiation and settlement, arbitration, claim forms, etc., assist in litigation, see litigation, civil, job search in this area of the law, perform this search, paralegal job, construction law. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or the city to the search query. 11. Contract law. The law of contracts is involved in a number of different paralegal specialties. See advertising law, antitrust law, banking law, bankruptcy law, collections law, construction law, corporate law, employee benefits law, entertainment law, family law, government contract law, insurance law, intellectual property law, international law, labor and employment law, landlord and tenant law, municipal finance law, oil and gas law, real estate law, and tax law. Contract review, review contracts to determine compliance with terms, investigate facts involving alleged breach of contract, do legal research on the law of contracts in a particular specialty, litigation assistance, see litigation civil, preparation of contract forms, separation agreements, employment contracts, contracts for sale, etc., job search in this area of the law, perform this search, paralegal job, contract law. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 12. Corporate law, paralegals involved in corporate law work in one of two main settings: law firms that represent corporations and law departments of corporations. The following task list covers both settings: incorporation and general corporate law. Incorporation and general corporate work. Pre-incorporation. Check availability of proposed corporate name and, if available, reserve it. Draft pre-incorporation subscriptions and consent forms for initial board of directors where required by statute. Record articles of incorporation, order corporate supplies for legal law departments. Incorporation. Draft and file articles of incorporation with the state agency for Subchapter S corporation, closed corporation, and nonprofit corporations. Draft minutes of initial meetings of incorporators and directors. Draft corporate bylaws. Obtain corporate seal, minutes book, and stock certificate book. Prepare necessary documents to open a corporate bank account. Directors' meetings. Prepare and send out waiver and notice of meetings. Draft minutes of the meetings. Draft the following resolutions to be considered by directors: sale of stock, increase in capitalization, stock split, stock option, pension plan, dividend distribution, election of officers, etc. Shareholders' meetings, annual and special. Draft sections of annual report relating to business, activity, officers, directors of company, etc. Draft notice of meeting, proxy materials, ballots, etc. Prepare agenda and script of meeting. Draft oath, report of judge, of elections and other compliance documents when required, maintain corporate minutes, books, and resolutions, help prepare other documents, shareholder agreements, employment contract, employee benefit plan, stock option plan, trust agreement, tax return, and closing papers on corporate acquisition. Public sale of securities, compile information on officers and directors for use in registration statement, assist in research of blue sky requirements, closing tasks, prepare agenda, obtain certificates from state agencies on good standing of company and certified corporate documents, and prepare index and organize closing binders. Research. Monitor pending legislation that may affect office clients, obtain requested information from corporate records and documents, assemble financial data from records on file at SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, and state securities regulatory agencies. General assistance, analyze government regulations to assure that policies and practices of the corporation are in compliance. Maintain tickler system for dates of next corporate meeting, shareholder meeting, upcoming trial, appellate court appearance, etc. Monitor the daily law journal or legal newspaper to identify relevant cases on calendars of courts, current court decisions, articles, etc., and forward such data to appropriate office attorneys. Act as file managers by indexing, digesting, and monitoring documents in the file. Prepare case profiles, maintain corporate forms file. Miscellaneous. Act as the corporate secretary, prepare documents for qualification to do business in foreign jurisdictions. Prepare filings with regulatory agencies, provide assistance in processing patent, copyright, and trademark applications, coordinate escrow transactions, work on certificates of occupancy, prepare documents needed to amend bylaws or articles of incorporation. Litigation assistance, prepare interrogatories, digest deposition testimony, perform site checks, etc. Job search in this area of the law, perform this search, paralegal job, corporate corporation. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 13. Criminal law, paralegal working for a prosecutor. Log incoming cases, help office screen out cases that are inappropriate for arrest, cases that are eligible for diversion, etc. Act as liaison with police department and other law enforcement agencies, prepare statistical caseload reports, interview citizens seeking the prosecution of alleged wrongdoers and prepare case files therein. Help the consumer fraud department resolve minor consumer complaints, like, for example, contact the business involved to determine whether a settlement of the case is possible without prosecution. Conduct field investigations as assigned. Help office maintain its case calendar. Act as liaison among the prosecutor, the victim, and witnesses while the case is being prepared for trial and during the trial. Act as general litigation assistant during the trial and the appeal. Prepare documents for UIFSA cases, Uniform Interstate Family Support Act. Monitor status of UIFSA cases. Paralegal working for a criminal defense attorney. Interview defendants to determine eligibility for free defense counsel if the paralegal works for a public defender. Conduct comprehensive interview of defendant on matters relevant to the criminal charges. Help the defendant gather information relevant to the determination of bail. Help the defendant gather information relevant to eligibility for diversion programs. Conduct field investigations, like, for example, interview witnesses. Help obtain discovery, particularly through police reports and search warrants. Act as general litigation assistant during the trial and the appeal. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job, criminal law. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 14. Elder or older adults law. Elder or older adults law. Attorneys focus on the legal problems of older adults, such as disability, estate planning, probate, Medicare, veterans benefits, and Social Security. For the roles of paralegals in such areas, see estates, trusts, and probate, family law, public sector, and Social Security law. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job, elder law. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 15. Employee benefits law, employee benefits paralegal work in law firms, banks, large corporations, insurance companies, and accounting firms. The following overview of tasks covers a paralegal working for a law firm. Drafting of employee plans. Assist the attorney, plan sponsor, plan administrator, or trustee in preparing and drafting qualified employee plans, such as stock bonus plans, profit sharing plans, money purchase pensions, trust agreements, individual retirement account IRA plans, annuity plans, HR-10 or KEO plans, employee stock ownership plans, life and health insurance plans, workers' compensation plans, and Social Security plans. Document preparation and program monitoring. Gather information. Determine eligibility for participation and benefits. Notify employees of participation. Complete input forms for document assembly. Assemble elections to participate. Determine beneficiary designations. Record elections to contribute. Allocate annual contributions to the individual participant accounts. Prepare annual account statements for participants. Identify potential discrimination problems in the program. Government compliance work. Tax requirements for qualification amendment and termination of plan. Department of Labor reporting and disclosure requirements. Insurance requirements. Welfare and pension plans. Disclosure Act requirements. Welfare and Pension Plans Disclosure Act requirements. ERISA, Employee Retirement Income Security Act requirements. Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation requirements. Miscellaneous. Help draft summary plan descriptions. For distribution to employees. Help prepare and review annual reports of plans. To assist the office more effectively become a Certified Employee Benefit Specialist, CEBS. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job, employee benefits. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 16. Entertainment law. Types of client problem areas. Copyright and trademark law. Apply for government protection for intellectual property, like, for example, plays, films, video, music, websites, and novels. Contract law. Help negotiate and draft contracts and monitor their enforcement. Labor law. Assist clients to comply with the contracts of unions or guilds. Corporate law. Assist in formation of business organizations and mergers. Assist on compliance with federal and state reporting laws and regulations. Tax law. Planning and compliance. Report passive royalty income, talent advances, residuals, etc. Allocate expenditures to specific projects. Family law. Assist with related domestic law issues, like, for example, prenuptial agreements, divorces, and child custody. Miscellaneous tasks. Register copyrights. Help a client affiliate with a guild. Monitor, remake, and sequel rights to films. Prepare documents to grant a license to use client's music. Check title registrations with the Motion Picture Association of America, MPAA. Read scripts to determine whether clearances are needed for certain kinds of material and references. Apply for permits and licenses. Calculate costs of granting or obtaining property rights. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job, entertainment law. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 17. Environmental law. Research questions pertaining to the environment. Land Use, Water Pollution, and the National Environmental Policy Act. Locate and catalog pertinent state and federal statutes, case law, regulations, and law review articles. Obtain non-legal secondary materials, maps, articles, and books useful for broadening the information base. Contact, when appropriate, government officials or other informants for information. Obtain and develop personality profiles of members of Congress, members of relevant bureaucracies, and other political figures. Help prepare memoranda or findings, including citations and supporting documents. Develop research notebooks for future reference on new topics in environmental law. Prepare bibliographies on environmental topics. Draft memoranda regarding new federal and state laws, regulations, or findings of research. Draft memoranda discussing pertinent issues, problems, and solutions regarding public policy developments. Draft and edit articles on coastal management programs and problems, conservation, water pollution, and the National Environmental Policy Act. Help edit environmental impact statements. Litigation, assist in the preparation of briefs, cite, check the brief, develop table and assist in the preparation of briefs, cite, check the brief, develop table of contents, table of authorities, and certificate of service. Locate and schedule witnesses, gather pertinent research materials, locate documents, maps, etc. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search. Paralegal job, environmental law. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 18. Estates, trust, and probate law. Estate planning. Collect data. Birth dates, fair market value of assets, current assets and liabilities, etc. Using computer-generated forms, prepare preliminary drafts of wills or trusts. Perform investment analysis in order to provide attorney who may be the fiduciary of the estate with information relevant to investment options. Office management. Maintain tickler system and the attorney's calendar. Open, index, monitor, and keep current the office file on the client's trust and estate case. Using computer programs, manage the accounting of trusts and estates administered by the office. Act as office law librarian, keeping loose leaf services up to date and etc. Train secretaries and other paralegals in the system used by the office to handle trusts, estates, and probate cases. Selectively discard certain mail and underline significant parts of other mail. Estate of decedent, assets phase, physical assets, collect assets like, for example, bank accounts, custody accounts, insurance proceeds, Social Security death benefits, safety deposit box contents, and apartment contents. Assist in the valuation of assets, maintain records like, for example, wills and trusts, vault inventories, power of attorney, property settlements, fee cards, bill payment letters, record and file instruments like, for example, wills and trusts, notify beneficiaries, prepare profiles of wills and trusts for attorney review. Estate of decedent, assets phase, digital assets, locate all digital files, documents, photos, etc. Identify names, addresses, and passwords of digital assets like, for example, email accounts, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and other social media accounts, blogs, and other websites. Estate of decedent, accounting phase, organize data relevant to taxation of estates, prepare preliminary drafts of federal and state death tax returns, apply the income principal rules to the estate, prepare accountings, final and accounts current, like, for example, set up a petition for a first and final accounting. Estate of decedent, termination, distribution phase, apply for the transfer of securities into the names of the people entitled, draw checks for the signature of executors, monitor legacies to charitable clients, file and prepare tax waivers, assist with closing documents, calculate distributable net income, follow up on collection and delivery, litigation, perform legal research, conduct factual research, investigation, like for example, track down the names and addresses of all possible claimants and contact them, prepare pleadings, digest summarized depositions, point out inconsistencies in the deposition testimony, prepare drafts of interrogatories, prepare drafts of answers to interrogatories, notarize documents, act as court witness on decedent's signature, job search in this area of the law, perform this search, paralegal job, estate, trust, probate. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 19. Ethics and professional responsibility. Paralegals in this area. Ethics and professional responsibility. Paralegals in this area work in two main settings. One, in large law firms, a paralegal can be a conflicts specialist. In large law firms, a paralegal can be a conflicts specialist, also called a conflicts analyst or conflicts researcher, helping the firm determine whether a conflict of interest exists between prospective clients and current or former clients. 2. Paralegals also work in state disciplinary agencies or boards that investigate complaints against attorneys for unethical behavior. In addition, paralegals assist attorneys who sue other attorneys for legal malpractice in which the defendant is often charged with negligence and violation of ethics. Paralegal working for a law firm. Research. Identify all persons or companies with a personal or business relationship with a prospective client. Determine whether the firm has ever represented the prospective client and or any persons or entities related to the prospective client. Determine whether the firm has ever represented an opponent of the prospective client and or any persons or entities related to the opponent of the prospective client. Reports. Notify attorney of data indicating possible conflict of interest. Database work. Update information in client database on current and past clients for purposes of future conflicts checks. Paralegal working for a disciplinary agency. Screen incoming data on new ethical complaints against attorneys, help investigate complaints, provide general litigation assistance to disciplinary attorneys during the proceedings at the agency and in court. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job conflicts. Perform this search, paralegal job conflicts, ethics, legal malpractice. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 20. Family law. Problem areas covered: adoption, divorce, contracts, prenuptial agreement, separation agreement, surrogacy agreement, etc., child support, child's custody annulment, etc. Commencement of action. Interview client after attorney has accepted the case. Prepare initial pleadings, including petition, summons, and waiver of service, affidavits on child support and child custody, and responses. Draft correspondence to be sent to clients, courts, and other attorneys. Arrange for service of process. Temporary orders. Prepare motions for temporary orders, like for example a temporary injunction, temporary custody, and support. Draft notice and request for hearings. Assist in settlement negotiations. Draft stipulations. Draft stipulations for court orders after negotiations. Financial affidavits. Help clients gather and compile financial information. Analyze income and expense information provided by the client. Coordinate work with accountants, financial advisors, brokers, and other financial experts retained by the client. Hire appraisers for real estate, business, and personal property. Prepare financial affidavits. Discovery. Prepare discovery requests. Help clients organize documents and data to respond to discovery requests from the opponent. Organize, index, and summarize materials obtained by discovery. Settlement negotiations. Assist attorney in the analysis of proposed settlements. Research legal questions and assist in drafting memoranda and briefs. Assist in drafting separation agreement. Hearings. Help prepare for hearings on final orders. Assist in the preparation of trial exhibits and trial notebooks. arrange for expert witnesses, assist in preparing witnesses and the client for trial, prepare draft of proposed decree, post decree, prepare documents for transfers of assets, file and record all transfer documents, review bills for tax deductible fees, and help prepare opinion letter to client, draft pleadings for withdrawal from case, special projects, develop forms for fact gathering from clients, maintain files on separation agreement provisions, current case law, resource materials for clients and experts in various fields, like for example, custody evaluation and business appraisals, comment on paralegal work in this area, job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job, family law. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 21. Gaming law applications. Obtain applications and related documents needed by a business to acquire licenses and permits to operate a gaming business, state gaming business license, local gaming business license, liquor license, state sales and use tax permit, health permit, unemployment insurance registration, and workers' compensation clearance. Help conduct due diligence and licensing history research. Coordinate the acquisition of gaming bonds. Arrange meetings for the execution of licensing applications, affidavits, and declarations. Compliance. Research business, license, and land use regulatory obligations. Maintain a tickler system for timely filings of compliance reports. File board meeting agendas and related materials. When a regulatory agency investigates the internal operations of a client, assist in providing information on finances, securities, product sales, political contributions, and personal data on senior management. Collection and judgments. Assist on out-of-state, including international, marker collection cases. Prepare and file judgment renewals. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job, gambling law. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 22. Government contract law. Calendar. Maintain calendar for appeal board and court appearances. On the tickler, record dates when briefs and other filings are due. Claims. Gather, review, summarize, and index client files. Assist in drafting contract claims. Conduct preliminary research on selected legal issues. Appeals. Draft and answer interrogatories and requests for production of documents. Summarize and index answers to discovery. Assist in drafting appeals. Prepare questions for witnesses and summarize their prior testimony. Maintain documents during hearing. Post-hearing briefs. Summarize and index transcripts. Assist with analysis of government briefs. Conduct preliminary research on selected issues. Assist in drafting the post-hearing brief. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job, government contracts. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 23. Immigration law. Providing information on visas, permanent residency, non-immigrant status, registration, citizenship, and deportation. Deportation. Provide assistance with clients facing deportation proceedings. Refer individuals to foreign consulates, nationality organizations, government officials, etc. for assistance concerning their immigration status. Applications and forms. Assist in filling out applications and forms. Assist in filling out visa applications, permanent residency applications, etc. Monitor consular processing procedure. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job, immigration. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 24. Insurance law. Insurance defense work consists of representing insurance companies that challenge claims brought against them or against their policyholders. A paralegal in this field might work for a law firm hired by an insurance company or may work within an insurance company itself. The most common kind of insurance defense work involves personal injury (PI) claims that arise out of liability policies. The following overview covers paralegals who work for insurance companies. Claims: assist in processing disputed claims within the company, provide trial assistance. Outside counsel: act as liaison between the insurance company and the outside law firm hired by the company to litigate cases brought by or against the company or its policyholders. Help with record keeping and oversight of bills submitted by outside counsel. Compliance: update government regulations on the insurance industry to assure that insurance policies and other company products are in compliance. Prepare applications for new insurance products to obtain approval from the state departments of insurance. Monitoring and research: monitor regulations of agencies and statutes of the legislatures that affect the insurance industry, particularly the committees of the legislature with jurisdiction over the industry. Provide factual and legal research on inquiries that come into the office from agents and brokers. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search: paralegal job, insurance law. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 25. Intellectual property law. Paralegals in this area work on copyrights, patents, and trademarks. Copyrights application: help the client apply for copyright registration for a novel, play, or other original works of authorship with the U.S. Copyright Office. Help apply for protection in foreign countries. Collect data for the application, like, for example, name and nature of the work, date completed, name of creator and author, its owner. Help identify the classification for the copyright. Examine accuracy of certificate of copyright registration. Copyrights, marketing: identify all potential users and licensees of the copyright. Help prepare contracts. Copyrights infringement: conduct investigations to determine whether an infringement exists. Like for example, compare the copyrighted work with the alleged infringing work. Provide general litigation assistance. Patents application: help the inventor apply for a patent with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Help describe the invention by using designs, diagrams, notebooks, etc. Check technical libraries to determine the current state of the art. Conduct a patent search. Determine filing fees. Apply for protection in foreign countries. Monitor the responses from government offices. Examine certificate of patent for accuracy. Patents, marketing the invention. Help identify potential licensees. Study the market, solicit bids, conduct financial checks, etc. Help prepare contracts. Patents, infringement. Conduct investigation on products that may have violated the patent. Provide general litigation assistance. Trademarks registration. Research trademark files. Trademarks registration. Research trademark files or order search of trademark. Research trademark files or order search of trademark or trade name preliminary to an application before the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Examine indexes and directories. Conduct investigations to determine when the mark was first used, where, on what products, etc. Prepare foreign trademark applications. Respond to actions taken by government offices. Examine the certificate of trademark for accuracy. Maintain files for renewals. Trademarks infringement. Conduct investigations into who else used the mark, when, where, in what markets, etc. Provide general litigation assistance. A job search in this area of the law. Perform this search: paralegal job, intellectual property. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 26. International law. Paralegals working in international law may be employed by law firms in the United States that represent clients with issues, usually commercial, of international law. Also, the law departments of multinational corporations have attorneys and paralegals on their staff who work on legal problems involving foreign countries. The following example covers a paralegal working on a dumping case in international trade. Dumping occurs when a manufacturer tries to control the market for a product in another country by selling the product below its cost or below the price of competing products in the other country. Investigation. Examine the normal behavior in the industry or market affected by the alleged dumping. Do statistical research, cost and price data. Prepare profiles of domestic competitors. Preparation of documents. Help prepare presentation before the U.S. Commerce Department. Help prepare presentation before the U.S. Court of International Trade. Accounting research. Coordination of data from members of Congress, foreign embassies, U.S. Department of State, and the U.S. Special Trade Representative. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job, international law. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 27. Judicial administration. Many courts have law clerks, attorneys who help judges decide cases and write opinions, and administrative clerks, attorneys, and non-attorneys who help with administrative aspects of the court. The U.S. Supreme Court has had an opening for an assistant clerk to help screen incoming cases. Some courts have positions that use the paralegal title, like, for example, procedural motions paralegal in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. A more common title, however, is judicial assistant. Examples of tasks performed include determining whether the parties have been properly notified of trial dates, checking filings and proposed orders from attorneys to determine whether anything appears inappropriate or premature, obtaining additional information on a case needed by a judge, etc. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job, judicial assistant. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. Perform this search, AA courts. Substitute the name of your state for AA. Look for links to employment, careers, or jobs on the site of any court in your state. Perform this search, AA federal courts. Substitute the name of your state for AA. On the site of any of the federal court in your state, look for links to employment, careers, or jobs. 28. Labor and employment law. Investigation. Sexual harassment, wrongful discharge, violation of occupational safety and health laws, violation of labor laws on collective bargaining, union organizing, arbitration, etc., violation of Civil Rights Act, protecting against discrimination on the basis of race, national origin, sex, or physical handicap, violation of Age Discrimination in Employment Act, violation of Americans with Disabilities Act, compliance, assist companies in implementing policies on drug and alcohol testing, AIDS in the workplace, race, sex, disability, and age discrimination, etc., litigation assistance, help bring labor disputes before the National Labor Relations Board, NLRB, State Labor Board, Civil Service Commission, Human Rights Board, courts, etc., miscellaneous tasks, maintain case files, digest and index data in files, arrange for depositions, help draft petition and other pleadings, maintain tickler system of due dates, prepare exhibits, prepare statistical data, help prepare appeals. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job, labor, employment law. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 29. Landlord and tenant law. Paralegals and real estate law firms occasionally become involved in commercial lease cases, such as a dispute over the interpretation of the lease of a supermarket at a large shopping mall. Such landlord-tenant cases, however, are not as common as the cases that arise between landlords and the tenants who live in the apartments they rent. For example, a landlord of a small apartment seeks to evict a tenant for non-payment of rent. Many of these cases are handled by publicly funded legal aid offices that do not charge fees. In a few states, non-attorneys are allowed to provide assistance and advice to landlords or tenants in eviction cases. In California, for example, such individuals are called unlawful detainer assistants. See Chapter 4. The following overview of duties covers a paralegal who works for a law firm that handles commercial leases. General duties. Abstract all leases in files. Abstract all amendments to leases and files. Enter all alerts and review them for needed action. Enter and update lease financials. Upload all documents into central lease database. Run monthly lease reports. Update monthly lease reports. Revise financials and clauses and data leases per landlord notices and communications. Link lease clauses to PDF pages and actual hard copy of lease. Review foreign rents submitted to the office. Maintain and organize hard copy lease files. Maintain letter of credit reduction schedule. Review and obtain insurance binders. Subtenants. Review insurance binders. Act as liaison for audits. Submit reconciliation statements. Track audit process. Draft letters to landlords on financial and ledger information. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job, landlord, tenant law. Perform this search, paralegal job, landlord, tenant, lease law. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 30. Law librarianship. There is a separate degree that a law librarian can obtain. This degree, however, is not a requirement to be a law librarian. A number of small or medium-sized law offices are hiring paralegals to perform library chores exclusively or in combination with paralegal duties on cases. Administration. Order books, traditional and e-books for law library. File loose leaf services and pocket parts in appropriate volumes. Pay bills of library vendors. Test and recommend computer equipment, software and services for the law library. Prepare budget for library. Cite checking. Check the citations in briefs, speeches, articles, opinion letters, and other legal documents to determine the accuracy of quoted material. Check the citations to determine the accuracy of citation format according to local court rules, the Uniform System of Citation, the Blue Book, or other citation guidelines. Research. Perform factual research. Perform legal research. Training. Train office staff in traditional legal research techniques. Train office staff in computer research, like, for example, Westlaw, Next, Lexis Advance, Google Scholar. Train office staff in site checking. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job, library. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 31. Law office administration. At the beginning of Chapter 14, you will find a detailed job description of the legal administrator and of the paralegal manager. Some experienced paralegals move into management positions at a law office. This might involve helping to administer the entire office or one component of it, such as the administration of all the paralegals in the office or the administration of the paralegals and other support personnel working on a large case. As we saw in Chapter 1, paralegals who supervise other paralegals in large offices have formed an association, the International Practice Management Association, IPMA. In smaller offices, paralegals perform office management duties along with paralegal duties. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job manager, legal administrator. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 32. Legislation. Monitoring. Keep track of all events, persons, and organizations involved in the passing of legislation relevant to the clients of the office. Legislative history. Locate or compile the legislative history of a statute. Helping draft proposed legislation. Lobbying. Prepare reports and studies on the subject of proposed legislation. Arrange for and help prepare witnesses to testify at legislative hearings. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job lobbying. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 33. Litigation. Civil. Civil litigation involves court disputes in every area of the law. other than a case where the government is prosecuting someone for the commission of a crime. Civil litigation involves court disputes in every area of the law other than a case where government is charging, also known as prosecuting, someone for the commission of a crime. Civil litigation can thus potentially involve every specialty other than criminal law. Also, litigation has many specialties such as medical malpractice and employment discrimination, file monitoring, index all files, write case profiles based on information in the files, organize, index, and digest documents obtained through answers to interrogatories, depositions, and other discovery devices, encode documents into a computer database, investigation, locate records, medical, police, birth, death, marriage, adoption, child custody, incorporation filings, etc. Prepare a profit history report of a company, identify the corporate structure of a parent company and its subsidiaries, trace a UCC Uniform Commercial Code filing, find out from court dockets if a particular merchant is being sued, has sued before, etc. Identify the real owner of a building, check housing code agency to find out if a landlord has other building code violations against it on record, discovery, e-discovery, and traditional discovery, access e-discovery data like, for example, emails, blogs, and PDF files, draft interrogatories, draft answers to interrogatories, draft deposition questions, help prepare witnesses for deposition, prepare witness books for deposition, arrange time and place of deposition, draft requests for admission, draft answers to requests for admissions, draft requests for production of documents, draft answers to production requests, ensure that responses to discovery sent out by the office do not contain privileged material, index and digest discovery data, work with computer programmer in designing a system to manage discovery documents, filings and serving, file and or serve documents in court, at agencies, on parties, on attorneys, etc. General assistance, arrange for clients and others to be interviewed, coordinate ADR, alternative dispute resolution, like for example, help schedule arbitration or mediation, arrange for expert witnesses to appear in court or at depositions, reconstruct from a large collection of disparate records and other evidence what happened at a particular time and place, assist clients in completing information questionnaire, especially in class action cases, help organize the trial notebook containing items the attorney will need during the trial, such as charts and tables to be used as exhibits, evaluate prospective jurors from jury book and during voir dire, sit at counsel tables at trial to take notes and be able to assist the trial attorney, like for example, locate documents and digital files the attorney needs for questioning, and sit at counsel's table at trial to take notes and be available to assist the trial attorney, like for example, locate documents and digital files the attorney needs for questioning a witness on a stand. Attend and report on hearings in related cases, supervise the encoding of documents on a case in litigation, help prepare the notice of appeal, order the trial transcript, locate testimony in the transcript needed by the attorney drafting the appellate brief, legal research, shepherdize or key cite authority in appellate briefs, perform other cite check duties, write preliminary memos and briefs, prepare bibliographies of source materials related to a case in litigation, pleadings, write preliminary draft of pleadings, using standard forms and or adapting other pleadings written by attorneys on similar cases. Experts assist in obtaining expert opinions for attorneys on taxation, accounting, statistics, economics, like for example, calculation of damages, etc. Court witness, act as witness if the paralegal did the service of process. Act as witness concerning data uncovered or photographed, like for example, the condition of an apartment building. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job litigation. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 34. Military law. In the U.S. Navy, a non-attorney who assists attorneys in the practice of law is called a legal man. Depending upon the assistant. Military law. In the U.S. Navy, a non-attorney who assists attorneys in the practice of law is called a legal man. Depending upon the assignment, the legal man can work in a large variety of areas of the law, like, for example, admiralty law, contracts, and military justice. Similar work is performed by paralegal specialists in the U.S. Army. The following military paralegal job functions are not limited to paralegals in any particular branch of the armed services. Military proceedings. Assist in processing the following proceedings: special court marital, general court marital. Assist in processing the following proceedings: special court martial, general court martial, courts of inquiry, line of duty investigations, reclassification board, proceedings, etc. Prepare orders designating membership of special and general courts martial and courts of inquiry. Assure that charges are properly prepared and that specifications are complete and accurate. Make initial determination on jurisdiction of court, status of accused, and subject matter of offenses. Examine completed records of investigations and other records requiring legal review to ensure that they are administratively correct. Prepare court-martial sentencing orders. Assure that records of court-martial are correct and complete before disposing of case. Transmit bad conduct discharge court-martial cases to appropriate officials. Claims against the government. Conduct examinations, help process claims against the United States, like for example under the Federal Tort Claims Act. Manage claim funds. Undertake research on flight federal legal information through electronics. Write briefs. Administrative duties. Manage records of all court-martial and claim cases within command. Maintain law library. Examine and distribute incoming correspondence, directives, publications, and other communications. Catalog and file books, periodicals, newsletters, etc. Maintain records of discipline within command. Administer office budget. Orient new personnel and monitor their training. Court reporting. Use the steno mask to record legal proceedings. Prepare charges to the jury. Mark exhibits as they are entered into evidence. Transcribe and assemble records of the proceeding. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search: paralegal job military. Also check the following sites: usmilitary.about.com/od/enlisted job1/a/in.htm legal man. www.goarmy.com. Type paralegal specialist in the search box. 35. Municipal finance law. Attorneys in this area, also called public finance, assist governments, nonprofit agencies, and home businesses obtaining funding for projects that have a strong public purpose, like for example, libraries, city halls, convention centers. Document preparation. Prepare first drafts of basic documents, including bonds, indentures of trust, and financing agreements. Attend drafting sessions and make notes on changes needed on initial drafts. Prepare second and subsequent drafts by incorporating revisions. Prepare first drafts of all closing documents. Prepare second and subsequent drafts by incorporating revisions and red line changes. Draft official statement and private offering memoranda. Perform due diligence to verify information in the offering document. Prepare second and subsequent drafts by incorporating revisions and red line changes. Coordination. Establish timetable and list of participants. Distribute documents to participants. Coordinate the printing of bonds and offering documents. File all documents as required. Coordinate publication of notices of meetings and elections, ordinances, public hearing notices, etc. Closing. Prepare checklist. Arrange and assist in pre-closings and closings. File special documents prior to closings. Secure requisite documents to be prepared or furnished by other participants. Perform all post-closing procedures. File all documents or security agreements. Supervise preparation of closing binders. Formation of special districts. Prepare documents necessary to organize the district. File documents with city or county and court. Prepare documents for organizational meeting of district. Elections. Formation of district or bond election. Draft election documents and obtain all necessary election materials. Develop and maintain research files. IDB procedures for municipalities, home rule charters, demographic and economic statistics, memoranda noting statutory changes, inter-office research memoranda, checklists for each type of financing, job search in this area of the law. Perform this search: paralegal job, municipal, public finance. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 36. Native American law. Tribal courts on Native American reservations have jurisdiction over many civil and criminal cases in which both parties are Native Americans. Parties are often represented by tribal court advocates who are non-attorney Native Americans. In addition, the judges are often non-attorneys. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search: paralegal job, tribal, Native American advocate. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 37. Oil and gas law. Some paralegals who work in the area of oil and gas law are referred to as land technicians. Data. Collect and analyze data pertaining to land ownership and activities that may affect the procurement of rights to explore, drill for, and produce oil or gas. Leases. Help acquire leases and other operating rights from property owners for exploration, drilling, and producing oil, gas, and other natural resources. Monitor the execution of leases and other operating agreements by ensuring that contract obligations are fulfilled, like, for example, payment of rent. Negotiation. Help negotiate agreements with individuals, companies, and government agencies pertaining to the exploration, drilling, and production of oil or gas. General assistance. Assist in acquiring oil and gas producing properties, royalties, and mineral interests. Process and monitor the termination of leases and other agreements. Examine land titles. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search: paralegal job, oil, gas. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 38. Parajudge, lay judge. In some states, judges in certain lower courts do not have to be attorneys. Such courts include justice of the peace courts and local magistrate courts. In New York State, for example, almost 2,000 judges in the state's town and village courts, often called justice courts, are not attorneys. New York is one of about 30 states that still rely on these kinds of local judges, descendants of the justices who kept the peace in colonial days when lawyers were scarce. As we will see in Chapter 4, some administrative agencies, particularly state and local agencies, allow non-attorneys to conduct administrative hearings within their agencies. The person conducting the hearing, whether an attorney or a non-attorney, is often called an administrative law judge, ALJ, hearing officer, or referee. More on this area of the law on the net. Perform this search. Non-lawyer judges. www.nytimes.com/2006/09/25 NY region/25 courts.html !_R equals 1 and OREF equals SLOGIN. 39. Pro bono work. Pro bono work refers to services provided for the public good at no charge and sometimes at reduced rates. Law firms often give their attorneys time off so they can take pro bono cases, like, for example, to defend a person with little income charged with a crime. Paralegals are also encouraged to do pro bono work. This is done on their own time or on law firm time with the permission of their supervisor. Here are examples of the variety of pro bono work performed by paralegals. Domestic violence. Draft request for protective orders, draft divorce pleadings, patients with AIDS, interview patient, and prepare a memorandum of the interview for the attorney on the case, assist patient with guardianship proceedings, draft powers of attorney, person without a home, handle a person's supplemental security income, SSI claims, make referrals to shelters and drug programs, finding pro bono opportunities, perform this search. Paralegal pro bono AA, substituting the name of your state for AA. To narrow the search, add the name of your city to the search query. 40. Public sector. A paralegal in the private sector works in an office whose a paralegal in the private sector works in an office whose funds come from the client's fees or from the budget of the corporate treasury. Every other setting is generally considerable. A paralegal in the private sector works in an office whose funds come from client fees or from the budget of the corporate treasury. Every other setting is generally considered the public sector. More specifically, the latter refers to those law offices that provide civil or criminal legal services to those with little income without charge. Often the services consist of helping clients obtain government benefits such as public housing, welfare, or medical care. Such services are referred to as public benefits, and providing such assistance is called public benefits law or sometimes poverty law. Paralegals who are employed by these offices are public benefits paralegals. The offices operate with government grants, charitable contributions, and the efforts of volunteers. The offices are called Legal Aid Society, Legal Services Office, Office of the Public Defender, etc. For examples of the kinds of functions performed by paralegals in these offices, see administrative law, bankruptcy law, civil rights law, criminal law, family law, landlord and tenant law, litigation, pro bono work, social security law, welfare law, and workers' compensation law. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search. Paralegal job, public benefits. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 41. Real estate law, general. Assist law firms, corporations, and development companies in transactions involving land, houses, condominiums, shopping malls, office buildings, redevelopment projects, civil centers, etc. Research zoning regulations. Prepare drafts of the contract of sale, title work, order title work from the title company, arrange title insurance. If title work is done by in-house personnel, prepare a map based on a master title plat or the current government survey map. Examine title abstracts for completeness. Help construct a chain of title that notes liens, easements, or other encumbrances. Obtain releases of liens and payoff statements for existing loans. Help draft preliminary title opinions. Mortgages. Assist in obtaining financing. Review mortgage application. Assist in recording mortgage. Closing. Arrange a closing time with buyer, seller, brokers, and lender. Collect the data necessary for closing. Prepare checklist of expenses covering title company's fees. Prepare checklist of expenses covering title company's fee, lender's fee, attorney's fee, prorated taxes and utility bills, tax escrow, discharge of liens, etc. Organize documents for closing, deed settlement statement, note and deed of trust, corporate resolutions, performance bond waivers, etc. Check compliance with the disclosure requirements of the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, RESPA. Arrange a rehearsal of the closing. Attend and assist at the closing, like, for example, take minutes, notarize documents. Foreclosure, order foreclosure certificate, prepare notice of election and demand for sale, compile a list of parties to be notified, monitor publication of the notice, prepare bid letter and other sale documents. Eminent domain, photograph or videotape the property that the state has taken or proposes to take, prepare inventory of the property taken, help client prepare business records on the value of the property, order appraisals of the property, order soil engineering reports. Review tax appeal records on values claimed by the property owner, mail notice of condemnation. Office management, maintain office tickler system, maintain individual attorney's calendar, manage the client's file, opening it, keeping it up to date, knowing where parts of it are at alt. Manage the client's file, opening it, keeping it up to date, knowing where parts of it are at all times, etc. Train other staff in the office system of handling real estate cases. Tax-exempt industrial development financing. Undertake a preliminary investigation to establish facts relevant to project eligibility, local issuer, and cost estimates of financing. Prepare formal application to the issuer. Prepare timetable of approvals, meetings, and other requirements necessary for closing. Prepare a preliminary draft of portions of the proposal memorandum relating to the legal structure of the financing that is submitted to prospective bond purchasers. Obtain confirmation from the Treasury Department that the company is in compliance with the financing covenants of current external debt instruments. Obtain insurance certificates. Write the first draft of the resolutions of the Board of Directors. Write the preface and recital of documents for the legal opinion of the company. Ask bank to confirm account numbers, amount of money that is to be transferred, and investment instructions. Prepare a closing memorandum covering the following documents: Secretary certificate, including resolutions of the Board of Directors, certified charter and bylaws of the company, and the incumbency certificate, UCC-1, Uniform Commercial Code, financing statements, requisition forms, certificate of authorized company representative deed. legal opinion of the company, transfer instruction letter, officer certificate, etc. Confirm that the money has been transferred to the company's account on the day of closing. Order an updated good standing telegram. Send a copy of the IRS election statement. Assemble, monitor, and distribute documents to appropriate departments. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search: paralegal job, real estate. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 42. Social Security law. As we will see in Chapter 4, paralegals can represent clients and charge them fees at Social Security hearings without attorney supervision. Such representatives are often called Social Security. As we will see in Chapter 4, paralegals can represent clients and charge them fees at Social Security hearings without attorney supervision. Such representatives are often called Social Security representatives. In Chapter 15, we will cover techniques for representing clients at such hearings. Paralegals also work for attorneys who practice older adult law, which includes Social Security cases. Finally, paralegals work for Social Security Administration itself. The following tasks cover an independent paralegal who represents claimants. Problem identification. Applicant is denied benefits, like for example, Medicare, Social Security, retirement, or disability benefits. Recipient is terminated from benefits. Recipient is charged with receiving an overpayment. Case preparation. Investigate relevant facts. Perform legal research. Representation. Engage in informal advocacy with Social Security employees. Represent clients at administrative hearings on denial. Assist attorneys who represent clients at administrative hearings. Appeal. Help attorney prepare a court appeal of the Social Security Administration's decision. Paralegal representation of a claimant in a Social Security disability hearing is the closest to a judicial setting that a paralegal may expect to become involved in. For the paralegal, this can be a very complex and challenging field. It can also be extremely rewarding, bringing with it the satisfaction of successfully representing a claimant in a quasi-judicial setting. Oberman, the Paralegal and Federal Disability Practice in Maine, MAP, newsletter, Maine Association of Paralegals. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search: paralegal job, Social Security. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 43. Tax law. Compile all necessary data for the preparation of tax returns: corporate income tax, employer quarterly tax, franchise tax, partnership tax, sales tax, personal property tax, individual income tax, estate tax, and gift tax. Completion of returns. Obtain missing information from clients. Compile supporting documents for the returns. Draft extension of time requests for late filings. Make corrections in the returns based upon new or amended data. Compute the tax liability or transfer client information to a computer service that will calculate the tax liability. Other tasks. Organize and maintain client binder. Compile documentation on the valuation of assets. Maintain tax law library. Read tax loose leaf services and online sources to keep current on tax developments. Let others in the office know of such developments. Supervise and train other non-attorney staff. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search: paralegal job tax. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 44. Tort law. A tort is a civil wrong other than a breach of contract that causes injury or other loss for which our legal system deems it just to provide a remedy, such as damages. Injury or loss can be the person. Injury or loss can be to the person a personal tort. Injury or loss can be to the person a personal tort, to movable property a personal property tort, or to land and anything attached to the land a real property tort. Most paralegals working in tort law, particularly on PI personal injury cases, are litigation assistants. The major tort areas are negligence, medical malpractice, products liability, defamation, and misrepresentation. Paralegals in this area may also be involved in workers' compensation cases for injuries that occur on the job. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job personal injury. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 45. Water law, water rights. Investigate and analyze specific water rights associated with the property. Do research at Department of Water Resources regarding decrees, tabulations, well permits, reservoirs, diversion records, maps, and miscellaneous statements. Do research at other agencies and offices, like, for example, Bureau of Land Management, state archives, historical societies, public libraries. Communicate in writing and orally with Department of Water Resources personnel regarding status of water rights and wells, with district water commissioners regarding status of water rights and wells, historic use and use on land, and with property owners and managers, ranch managers, and ditch company personnel regarding status of water rights and wells, historic use and use on land. Prepare historic use affidavits. Prepare reports, maps, charts, and diagrams on status of water rights and wells, historic use and use on land, real estate transactions. Draft documents for the purchase and sale, encumbrance, or lease of water rights and wells. Perform title searches in county clerk and records offices. Perform due diligence investigations. Assist at closings. Well permit applications. Prepare well permit documents for filing, applications, land ownership affidavits, statements of beneficial use, amendments to record, and extensions of time. Coordinate and monitor the well permit and drilling process. Communicate with Department of Water Resources personnel, well drillers, and client. Water court proceedings. Prepare water court documents for filing applications, statements of opposition, draft rulings and orders, stipulations, withdrawals of opposition, and affidavits. Maintain diligence filing tickler system. Work with client to maintain evidence of diligence. Review route and maintain file of term day notices and orders. Orient attorneys for term day. Monitor water law publications. Read reporter and water court cases, and register for new water law cases and Department of Water Resources regulations. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job water law. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 46. Welfare law, public assistance. Problem identification. Identify non-legal problems for referral to other agencies. Open a case file or update it. Provide information on benefits such as temporary assistance for needy families, TANF, Social Security, Medicare, etc. Help client fill out application forms. Initial work. Summarize facts for the attorney. Obtain further instructions from attorney. Refer non-legal problems to other agencies. Do research in law library. Investigation. Verify information, like for example, call caseworker, visit department office, search for additional information, update client file on results of investigation. Advocacy. Be an informal advocate to determine if the problem can be resolved without a hearing or court action. Draft letter requesting hearing. If informal advocacy is not successful, in advance of hearing, request that the department send you the documents it will rely on at the hearing. Prepare all witnesses, like for example, explain what hearing will be about. Use role playing. Prepare all witnesses, like for example, explain what the hearing will be about. Use role playing to acquaint them with the format and what you will be seeking from the witness. Represent client at the hearing. Make opening statement summarizing client's case. State what relief the client is seeking from the hearing. Submit documents into the record. Conduct direct examination of the client's witnesses, including the client. Conduct redirect examination of witnesses if allowed. Cross-examine their witnesses. Recross-examine their witnesses if allowed. Make closing statement summarizing the case of the client and repeating the result the client is seeking, etc. Follow-up. Request a copy of the transcript of the hearing. Consult with attorney to determine whether the hearing result should be appealed in court. Assist attorney in gathering documents needed for appeal. Prepare preliminary draft of the legal argument to be made to the trial court handling the appeal. Be a general assistant for the attorney in court. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search. Paralegal job public benefits. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. 47. Workers' compensation law. Initial work. Collect and record details of the workers' compensation claim, date of injury, nature of dates of prior illnesses, etc. Collect or arrange for the collection of documents, like for example, medical and employment records. Coordinate scheduling of physical examination. Drafting, claim for compensation, request for hearing, medical authorization, demand for medical information in the possession of respondent or insurance carrier, proposed summary of issues involved. Advocacy, informal contact, call, visit, write a letter to the employer and or the insurance carrier to determine whether the matter can be resolved without a formal hearing or court action. Formal, represent the claimant at the administrative hearing if the state allows non-attorney representation. Follow-up, determine whether the payment is in compliance with the award. If not, draft and file statutory demand for proper payment. If such a statutory demand is filed, prepare a tickler system to monitor the claim. Job search in this area of the law. Perform this search, paralegal job workers' compensation. To narrow the search, add the name of your state or city to the search query. The time now is 8:58 p.m. Today is Saturday, April 11th, 2026. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.